Hey guys, Stealth here. In this video we're going to see some force reconnaissance. And with force reconnaissance I mean we're going to see an Eastfor Motorized deck taking over the map. Now of course a motorized deck does not have a lot of armor, so on a map like this, which is another D-Day in Paradise with the beta, where you have this large naval zone, you have to be clever. You cannot just go around in the open field and hope that the armor on your motorized, lightly armored vehicles is going to defend you. Instead, we're going to follow Double Odd Buck here, and he is going towards the strength of his deck, which is in this forested area. You can use a lot of good infantry, and what is special about this replay is that he is not going to be using infantry, or at least not the regular infantry. He's going to go purely reconnaissance, and with the reconnaissance in Eastern Bloc Motorized you get some very nice units. You're going to see his units spawn in here. I already watched the gameplay before, and I can tell you that he's going to bring some Specialny Jetnotkis. So those are, I believe, the Polish, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And some Formosas. So he has anti-tank capability with a very high rate of fire, and infantry which has grenade launchers and is trained to the elite level. So they're going to be extremely effective at taking out both vehicles and infantry in this area. He also has some other infantry or some other units in here that you don't see that often, in the form of the Rhomb AA. Now he wrote to me that these things are extremely underestimated, and for 40 points they are extremely effective if you use them correctly. Range on them isn't stellar, but they fire pretty quick. They're pretty quick to acquire their target, and they do carry a decent amount of ammo with them. And then again, they're only 40 points, so what can go wrong? As you can see, he has a couple of those. He has some Strop 2s, another group of Rhombs, and this is a good choice, having a large amount of AA over here. Because this, of course, is pretty much the middle of the map. That means that any aircraft which are going to come in are usually going to fly over this area and then either veer off to Jot to do a bombing run on this forest, try and get something in Constantine, maybe something in Elena, or in this town. So he's going to be right in the middle of it. Having something else in there might be better, but the advantage that the Rhomb has is that it's very mobile. You're going to see that these things have an off-road speed of 80 kph, along with the Strop, which has an even greater off-road speed, and the trucks that he's using to transport his infantry are really the only things that are slow, or relatively slow, at 50 kph off-road speed. But then again, he doesn't need the trucks for anything other than delivery. They're only here to drop off the infantry. Once they've done that, those trucks can just disappear. And the infantry is going to march out of them and transport, or travel if you will, at 30 kph, which is very high speed. Now the gameplay that Double Odd Buck is displaying here is very interesting, because normally in a motorized deck you're thinking infantry, some vehicles to traverse through gaps in the enemy defenses, and otherwise making sure that forests are secure, but just by using regular infantry. Buck here is showing us that that does not need to happen, and instead he's going to go with pure reconnaissance infantry. Another thing that struck me about this game is that there is no red for artillery spam. Usually you have at least one guy in your team, or on the enemy team, who thinks that it's a nice idea to celebrate the New Year's with all the fireworks early, who starts to spam Smirches, BM-27s, and the likes. This time around there was no one in red 4 doing that. You did see a couple of shells from blue 4 landing just over here, as some forces were traversing this bridge, but it seems that all of these guys made it out unharmed. Now his AA already arrived, and you might say that these guys have arrived a little bit too soon, because you want your infantry ahead of the AA, and with this he's not being too risky, but I think he's being pretty risky, because you don't know how many units have landed here and how fast they managed to push the infantry through. So he's going to offload the infantry, both in these sectors and over here, and getting them to walk over there. Now the infantry that he's using, you can already see some of them here from Kappa. Specialny Jetnotki, Czech units. They have an RPG, which does a decent amount of armor penetration. Its rate of fire is very high, at 20 rounds a minute. You're going to very quickly dispose of enemy vehicles, which makes it an effective unit, especially at close range, where you don't want an autocannon to keep firing at you. He also has the, let me find them here, the Formosas. Formosas are a Polish unit which carry a grenade launcher, an RPK and a submachine gun. They're a 10-man squad, but with the grenade launcher and the submachine gun, they are very effective at taking out infantry at short to medium range, but mostly short, so say around 455 meters, which is the maximum range of both the submachine gun and the grenade launcher. And they carry a larger amount of ammo, or actually no, never mind, they carry the same amount of ammo as the Navy SEALs. So with this, Keppa deployed a marker here saying there's the enemy over here. His Mi-25 got shot up pretty bad. I think it got ammo wrecked, or it took a hit to the ammunition stores because it's completely out of ammo. And Double Odd Buck is just going to march in with all of his infantry, wiping out 2 transports here, 2 warriors, with just 2 units lost, 2 infantrymen, not the entire unit. So he already scored 40 points here. Now he's pushing up here, he's bringing in his AA, which he parked slightly off to the side, and with his OT-64C he's bringing in some more reconnaissance infantry. Because as you can see, he has quite a lot of these specialnies, but not that many Formosas. And these guys just got eradicated. Another group of Fusiliers shows up from Captain Cabbage, and they meet exactly the same fate. Now, these Specialny Jetnotki over here are pushing their way through, destroying the Fusiliers and their transports and pretty much whatever they come up against. There's not a lot that Bluefor can do here. What Bluefor is doing, in the meanwhile, is pushing up with these units over here. A couple of Oliver Hazard Perrys, but they are not really that big of a threat right now. Or at least not to Double Odd Buck here. Some more Specialnies, they're pushing up to this side where they engage another warrior and destroy 2 warriors, even with infantry inside. That was a plus 20, plus 10, so he managed to destroy them both. Then there's something in here, which is probably an FV-432 transport from the British, seeing as it seems to be mostly British who are operating in this region. And they have deployed some Milan strike teams, so these guys are threatening the BTR and whatever tank happens to get too close. That is, until Buck shows up. Specialnies comes in, wipe out, or at least spot for the tank that was over here, the Chanmaho force, kill a transport, wipe out some infantry, proceed to take out the next infantry, take them down, and they're just going to cruise casually along this forest. And by now this forest is pretty much entirely under the control of Buck. Over here he's engaging some more units. I believe these are the mortars. They're slightly more expensive at 30 points, but they just die as easy as the rest. Now these groups are slightly too compressed for me. They're in a very, very tight formation, and that makes them an extremely big target to stuff like an airstrike. Especially a napalm strike from a Phantom would be very, very dangerous to these guys. Buck probably realized this, and he's pushing them all to the other side, so spreading them out, engaging the mortar as he does it. And over here there were some Fusiliers. He was engaging those with 10 Specialny Jetnotki. He's going to link up with this group. Now he has 20, and this gives him a much, much safer unit to engage the Fusiliers in here, who I can tell you do not stand a lot of chance, or do not really stand a chance against these Specialnys. Over here, some more transports who seem to be taking fire from the BTR. And the Specialny just wipe them out as they come along, but first they're going to take out these javelins. Over here, some Fusiliers were left, but Specialny don't want any outsiders in their forest, and the Fusiliers immediately get murdered. Transports get wiped out, either, probably by the Specialnys because they lost a bit of ammo. Bomb comes in, and that unfortunately destroyed 20 of his guys. That was a Nighthawk that dropped by the looks of it. So he did take some losses here, but from what I've seen, I believe that these are the first losses that Buck has taken. An Eagle comes in, and this is time where the ROMs can really shine. Unfortunately though, they first meet a couple of warriors over here, and they lose one, but they do manage to shoot down the Eagle. Very threatening plane, 160 points, and you don't want those operating too long, because those 1000 kilogram bombs that those things transport are very, very deadly. So he backs off with his ROMs, pushes in with his Specialny Jetnotki, finds the warriors, and 2 warriors get 1 shot. Get the hell out of my forest. And so far I'm very, very impressed with this style of play. I had never even considered that you could try to do this. So, Double Out Buck, thank you for sending it in already, because you've already taught me how to play this game even better. I would have just pushed in here with standard infantry, maybe some vehicles to support them. But I believe that whatever I would have done would not have been as effective as what you're doing here. I would have probably lost some vehicles along the way to the Fusiliers. Now this is where it becomes interesting what his next step is going to be. Because these infantry units cannot exactly traverse this area very quickly. They're not a vehicle. They do have their transports, which are over here, the Tatras and the Stars. But they're not exactly fast or well armored. They can do 150 on road since they're wheeled vehicles. But you bet that if I see some of those trucks coming in and I'm blue for, I'm going to send a helicopter or a bomber after them. So what he could do is either go this way, retreat into the forest and try to take another bridge, which is all the way back there. It's not something you really want to do because you just gained all of this terrain, you don't want to give it up. Or you could go across this bridge and try to flush out the infantry and vehicles which are hiding in there. The team scores, by the way, are not that far apart. Blue 4 has 1700 points and Red 4 has 2000. And a large amount of the Red 4 players are engaged on this flank. They're trying to secure their harbor or their naval zone, which Double Out Buck deployed his CV in to make sure that they don't control this naval zone. If they did, this battle would be a very, very favorable position for Blue 4. They could engage this position with quite the amount of naval units and probably force the Red 4 team to surrender Dimitri and all of their FOBs. Not something you want to have happen. Something that I also just noticed, Buck is not using a FOB. His deck is probably so low in logistics maintenance or logistics requirements that he doesn't even need to get a logistics base in, so he doesn't need a FOB. A couple of ROMs fire again, taking out a Phantom for another 120 points. And he did instantly decide to go across this bridge, where for now he's going to back up the Spetsnaz. Spetsnaz, of course, being very good against infantry, but not so good against vehicles, which is definitely a role that the Specialny can do. And it seems that there are some nice and juicy infantry units over here. Definitely targets for his Formosas and his Specialnys. This T-90, I'm not sure what the hell Little Bird is doing here, but it seems that he's just trying to clear a forest with a super heavy, and of course that's not going to work out too well for him. Over here, his AA units are running out of fuel. That is something that these things do. They do have an autonomy of 500 kilometers, but I'm not sure if they are as effective or as efficient, I should say, when they are maneuvering through a forest. They might burn a little bit more fuel there. So they're going to get rearmed, resupplied and possibly repaired as far as they needed that by this Colossus, which definitely fits perfectly in this deck. Very mobile unit with 100 kph off-road speed. Now Buck is going to claim this forest for himself as well, entering the Formosas and the Specialnys and just casually wiping out some Fusiliers without really taking a scratch here. He didn't lose that many forces. He lost some guys inside the platoon, but the platoon itself is still there, so he did not give the enemy any points there. This position is something that is slightly worrying, because if those vehicles decide to push up, and I saw a couple of M18 tank destroyers and some M8 AGS, you're in trouble. This bomber comes in, manages to drop its bombs right on top of his infantry, which is a very, very unfortunate hit for him. But he managed to take it down with the ROMs. So again, the ROMs, 3 of these 120 point units in total, for 3 of these units, took down possibly a stealth fighter or helped to take it down. Took down an Eagle and 2 Phantoms. And especially the Phantoms are the biggest threat to his forces right now. Now over the course of the battle, quite a lot of Blue 4 members have already quit. I'm not really sure why, because they seemed to be doing okay here. That is until Red 4 started devoting this many forces to killing off these ships. They do have some helicopters going on here, but their main areas, the land areas, which are usually the zones which give you income, are solidly in control of Red 4. So Blue 4 is not going to do too well here. One of these Specialny Janotkis fortunately made it out alive, and that is very, very lucky. Otherwise he would have lost another 25-point unit here. And I think he already lost enough forces due to that one bombing run. A couple of Formosas come in and they engage, possibly the Chaparral, but I think they got blocked off by the Marines. Now watch what happens next. This is 17, now 16 Formosas, firing only their machine gun from this position for now, because the napalm here is blocking their line of sight. Now they're both in vision. Grenade launcher is going to work, and these guys just start dropping like flies. They go down so fast that his teammates, which are trying to help with BTRs and some other units, barely get a chance to give these Formosas a hand. That's how effective these units can be, if you use them the right way. And I suppose that you could call these guys the Navy SEALs, or the Navy SEALs equivalent of Poland. They do have the same type of grenade launcher, and they are, well, I suppose you could say, just as effective at taking out infantry. Something over here is coming in. That is napalm artillery. I'm not entirely sure where from. But the ally that fired that might have mentioned that he was deploying napalm there. Now Illegitimate also surrenders. He left the game. And by now there's, I think, only one or two Blue 4 players left. Maxo Rebo left. Kuro Papa left at the beginning of the game. Soldier left. Captain Cabbage left early on after Buck took his forest from him. Orion left. SH-927 left already, I believe. And I'm not too sure about Enarian and Salgood. There goes SH-927. And the Colossus is resupplying the Formosas with some new recruits, getting these guys all up to their strength after that terrible bombing run, that napalm strike that hit them so bad. Special note about this gameplay, he did not bring in a single unit of infantry. Nothing. The only infantry that he brought in was reconnaissance, and maybe some tanks here and there in AA. He didn't even touch infantry, which I think is an extremely impressive play, and definitely my compliments to you, Buck, because you did an amazing job here. He also scored by far the most points in his team, making very effective use of that infantry. Now this, of course, is slightly worrying, a couple of K1s, and he's going to try and shoot those things in the side using a T-55. Did manage to get a hit, but the T-55 does not reload fast enough to stay in range of those tanks, and same for the Arcan missile. It cannot acquire the target, which is somewhat ironic because he has a ton of reconnaissance infantry in here, but they cannot acquire the target. And now, I believe, the last person surrendered and the game suddenly quit. So with that, Buck got a score of 1100 points and only lost 180. I think he only lost infantry and one Romb AA unit. But with that, he performed an amazing gameplay here. He did a very, very good job. And again, Buck, thank you for sending in. You taught me how to use these motorized in a way that I hadn't even considered them yet. So I really, really appreciate you sending in this gameplay. If you want to use this gameplay and the deck that Buck was using, the deck code for it is in the description down below this video. So you yourself can try and repeat or maybe even improve upon the performance that Buck had over here. With that, that's the end of the video. I hope you liked watching it. I really, really enjoyed watching this game. So if you did as well, please hit like. And if you want to see more Wargame, please subscribe to my channel. Also, keep in mind, January 18th, that's Sunday, I'm going to be streaming. And that stream is going to start at 3 p.m. Central European time. The more information on that via the link in the description down below. I hope to see you all there. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.